Hi and welcome everybody. So my name is Michael Bugaj. I'm the CMO here at Tembi. And I'm joined together with...
Yeah, my name is Christian and I'm head of product development here in Tembi.
So first of all, maybe we should start with a short introduction towards Tembi. So at Tembi, we're a market intelligence platform. So what we do is that we collect an enormous amount of data from webshops, and together with that, we actually have a technology that goes and visit every web shops, and doing that, we also simulate purchases, which means that we gather an enormous amount of data and information from every web shop on the market. And that ranges from everything from how they check out, which payment providers, with delivery providers they use, and to our latest thing, which is product insights, which we'll dive into and showcase exactly how it works. And to understand the scale of what we're doing, so our product is available today in almost 22 markets. We are on a bi-weekly basis visiting over 3 million websites. And out of those, we have categorized over 800,000 as being active online retailers, which means that you can actually purchase stuff and they're operating. So as you can imagine, it's an enormous amount of products. I think we have today over 300 million products in our database. And I can't remember the exact number of brands, but it is in this hundreds of thousands. So, Christian, why don't you bring us in and tell us a little bit about the story behind Product Insights and what has been the reasoning and why we're doing this?
Yes, for sure. Thank you for the introduction, Michael. So throughout the years where we have worked in the e-commerce space, we have always been challenged about the question, what are they actually web shops selling? So what are they doing online? What kind of brands are they offering? What kind of products? What kind of price ranges, dimensions, weight groups, all kind of information of actually getting a deeper understanding of the individual web shop. So it's always been a challenge for us to get that kind of insight because, as you mentioned, we are good at extracting data about that checkout, payment setup, and all kind of information, but actually going that step deeper in is some of the reasons why we have kicked off the Product Insight project. And it has been a project that we started in the beginning of the year, where we start collecting information about web shops and more specifically the product and variants. But we also figured out quickly that we are looking at an enormous amount of data because you mentioned that we have 800,000 web shops, but a web shop is also having many products. So we quite fast could see that a web shop quickly could have 100,000 products. So our data was just scaling and scaling, and we have like 500 million individual products right now in our database that we collect information about bi-weekly right now.
And going into this project, like what kind of challenges have you seen? So one aspect is, of course, the infrastructural aspect, but also I can imagine between the countries, the different languages, there's also the human factor, which means that not everything is classified or written in the same way. A web shop can write something being a brand, but it's not actually a brand. So how do you solve these type of challenges?
We have met a lot of different kind of challenges, and the first thing was to actually find the right taxonomy to use, because Shopify have their own taxonomy of how to categorize products. Google have, Amazon, and all different kind of system have different taxonomies for what is actually a product category. So the first thing we did was that we decided to use Google's taxonomy, and then we also decided to use it down to what is called level 4. Level 4 basically means that we have around 2,500 categories on a very detailed level. So now we have like a set of rules that we can start applying. But then the next challenge was that in Denmark or in all other markets, we have both local language and we have like English or other global languages that we need also to train a model to understand, to classify into these categories. So that was challenge number 2. So we basically, for each market, has to both train a model to understand the local language and also a global model to understand the global languages like English. So we trained a model that could go in, and every time it looks at a URL and a text string, it could figure out if this is a MP3 player, then it could put it into that category. Is it a t-shirt, or what is it actually this product is? So in small scale, this sounds good. But then we also quite quickly ran into some limitations actually in the Microsoft Azure environment. So when we were building this model, we also figured out that we didn't have enough compute power. It sounds crazy when you hear about all these data centers and stuff like that. But we actually have to reach out to Microsoft and get a compute power that was outside of the Nordic region because it requires so much power to classify this amount of data. So that was also a challenge for us to get an ongoing infrastructure that could classify this with enough compute power. And it roughly take us, first time we classify a market today, up to a week of actually running time just to classify all these products. So that was also one of the challenges.
And I can also imagine, because we're doing it bi-weekly, that it also kind of collects one aspect is also the benefit of seeing the historical data and being able to follow that development of the webshop, right?
Yeah, for sure. Like that's also why we already start collecting the data in the start of this year, even if we know that we will not activate it immediately, because being able to actually start following trends and see patterns in the data and figuring out when a web shop actually start offering new products or new brands, or when we start seeing like more global trends in terms of new brands popping up that is trending in markets and start being offering more online. That's also the kind of data we want to build here. And then previously we talked a bit about the categories as an issue. The next thing that was challenging us was the brand, because what is a brand name? And we actually took an approach where we said the brand is only brands that is verified by a webshop owner, because I think that could be a way to actually make sure we are looking at the same brands. So the brand list we created was coming directly from the webshop owners. However, we also figured out that human error is happening, and we find a lot of brand that was called A, B, C, D, or dot and smiley actually. So the next challenge was to figure out and remove what was not a brand. So we went from 80,000 brands down to a selection of 16,000. And out of these brands, we are then having also a prioritized list of which kind of brands we are looking at first. Because we also want to make sure that when we classify something as a specific brand, that is actually also connected to that brand, of course. So that is also some of the processes that has been running to set this up.
And I can also imagine it's an ongoing process, right? Where kind of we start at one end and then it becomes better and better with time. And we also have the more data we gather, we also have the possibility, of course, to kind of improve previous classification and become even better at targeting. And I think it's also worth mentioning that the reason we are now starting to putting this product live is also because we've reached a certain level of quality, because that has always is very important when you work with data, is to ensure that you have very good structure, but to be able to put it in the right context and then be able to put it into the right use case.
Exactly, because we need to also make sure that what comes out of all this classification comes with good enough quality, but also a product here that we are working on ongoing, because everything is moving super fast when it comes to modeling. Like the things we did a year ago can be improved a lot today by just applying some of the new technology that is also coming out. So it is an ongoing process where we also need to look at what is actually data quality and when is stuff good enough. We also have a lot of threshold at different places to say, okay, this year we are not sure about. So instead of giving it a guess, we're actually better to say, hey, we're not classifying it.
Yeah. All right, but let's, now we've had a short 10-minute introduction. So why don't we dive into the platform and showcase how this actually looks? Because one of the main things I've heard from people saying is that I can't believe this exists, or I don't truly kind of believe you can actually go into every web shop and see their product portfolio in a simplified, constructed way. So let's showcase how it looks inside the platform and how the current setup looks like.
Let's do it. I can share my screen here. 1 second. Can you see my screen now?
Can you share again? I think I accidentally clicked wrong.
Yeah, if you give me a second.
There we go.
You see now? Perfectly.
Yep.
So what we're looking at here is web shops in Switzerland. one of the market that we have classified, and also one of the market that was a bit tough because of the language barriers, that you have different versions of local language, including German also, and English, of course. But we have classified the web shops, and we are currently having around 40,000 web shops in total in Switzerland. So the first thing we can try out is actually to only focus on the largest web shop. So our new size indication model here, let's say we're only looking at web shop with a score plus 80. That is narrowing down the list a lot. And then we can start using these product insights filters. And what we can do here is that we can both filter based on medium prices in the web shop. We can look at product weight. We can also focus on specific categories. So when we are talking about the Google taxonomy, just to give you an example, we are looking at, first of all, level 1, where we have 21 different categories. And then we can simply open them up and then go deeper and deeper into the individual categories. And some categories has 3 layers, like we see here, while other has multiple layers afterwards as well. You can see like underwear and socks, we can go even further down. So it depending also on how Google has set up their structure. But overall, that gave us around 2,500 categories. If we then go further down, we can also say, let's look at specific brands to include. So we can both include and exclude. But as an example, we can select Adidas here. So now we're looking at web shops that is selling Adidas in Switzerland and had a significant size. So if we open an example up here, let's go to full screen. This is a pharmacy. And first thought is, of course, that a pharmacy is not selling Adidas. However, we also know, all of us from sport and other situations, that Adidas is actually a shampoo brand. So I'm pretty sure that if we looked at beauty here, we'll find Adidas. But what we can do is that we can open up the Product Insight tab, and then we can take a look at the overall web shop and also their categories. First thing we see is that we have around 49,700 products and almost 1,600 brands. But we can also look at the product and category distribution. So we can see the biggest part of the web shop products is in health and beauty. But we can also see that we have a portion that is in unknown. And of course, first thought will say that this looks like a data error. But that is simply because we have set a rule that we need to be 70% sure about the categorization before we are allowing it to be classified into one of the products categories. So that's why we see the unknown category here. If we scroll further down, we could both filter on a specific category. So as an example, if we say, let's take a look at the health and beauty segment, we could go further down and look at healthcare or personal care. See, that is the main categories here. Or we can also go down and look at the individual trend in these categories. So as an example, we can see that they actually have increased their number of product in personal care over time. And we can also see that it has been quite stable in healthcare. If we want, we could also open up personal care and then go one step further down. If we continue to take a look here, we can also get a bit of understanding of how their product is actually distributed when it comes to both prices and also weight. So what is the average weight of the different product categories, like mini, small, medium, and also what is like the average prices, and then of course number of products. Mini, small, and medium here means that we are looking at dimensions. So as an example, we can say, let's focus on small products. Then we can see that in this web shop, they have 732 products that we have classified to be small as a dimension. They have a weight between 0 and 500 grams, and that they have a price between 9 to 23. Not so unexpected when we're looking at a web shop within pharmacy that many of the products is at the smaller end, but it still gives us an understanding of like how is the structure here. And this piece here is some of the things that we have when we kicked off as a start, we were not thinking about the dimension elements. But for some of our customers within last mile, this was some of the requests to say, okay, how does this actually fit in when we're looking at products and we're looking at delivery? Then of course, weight and dimension is also a huge element of what you are delivering.
Absolutely. It's also interesting that you can then basically look for web shops that have kind of a similar product portfolio and similar kind of dimension of size and of products, which means that if you're specialized in, let's say, bike delivery within urban areas, and you're particularly looking for smaller packages, this will give you exactly the answer, both for kind of understanding how big is your total market or for prospecting specific clients.
Yeah, and also that we see the box delivery is growing all over Europe. And it's, of course, interesting to also review from that angle, how much of the market are you missing out on if you're only delivering to a box, and what kind of box should you then buy? Is it actually, there's many different types of boxes, and should it be boxes that allowed larger products, smaller products, or what is actually the movements in the market here? Just as an example. If we scroll further down, we also have brands we can look at, and we can see that we both have some products that we cannot classify as a brand, which what we call unknown. And as first thought, you'll think that all product is a brand. But then imagine next time you're out buying stuff, how much that is actually not connected to a well-known brand or connected to something that is actually a brand. So that is also why we see a category of unknown here. And if we remove that one, we can also see how things have been trending over time. And as an example, we can see this web shop probably introduced a new brand here in end of February, March, and they are currently having around 1,100 products from this. We found this web shop by looking at Adidas. So if we search for it here, we could actually add it to the chart as well. We can remove the others, and then we can actually see that the number of products in this store from Adidas has also been jumping a bit up and down, but there's currently around 5 here. Further,
It's amazing the level of granularity that you can get with this.
Yeah, but it's like we are down to each individual product. And that is, of course, also why we are looking at so much data. I mean, just for this one, was 50,000 products. So this is 50,000 products that we are actually separating and we can look at from multiple angles. So it's a very detailed level. And
that's
also,
another kind of interest. Sorry to interrupt you, but like another very interesting use case, of course, is to think of it from a product category manager perspective. Whether you work for the brand or the manufacturer, and actually be able to see this is exactly how many web shops are selling this specific product, to understand kind of what's the visibility, where it's actually gaining in popularity, how does the brand look, how does the category look like, and in depth get insights around how this is showing in the market.
100%, but also this about understanding what are actually happening in the market. So if you're looking at competitors, are they start activating and introducing other kind of categories that is maybe not fit 100% to your current product mix, but you can see there is a demand that the best example from school was always gin and tonic, right? If you're buying gin, you always buy tonic. So is there actually some products that is going hand in hand and categories that you need to be aware of as a webshop owner that is sitting with these things?
I think you also mentioned like what's interesting is the whole like monitoring the market on this ongoing basis also gives you that but the fact that sometimes brands launch these test products that are quite not getting a launch campaign or being publicized because they just basically want to test the market, like launching a new shoe or some new line. Just to test how it is, and that could basically then be visualized or popped up through our platform.
Yeah, exactly, because that's actually some of the things you can do without filtering. You could select your competitor or all web shop that is selling the same stuff as you, and then get notified if they start selling specific categories, or if you have a feeling that a new brand is coming in, we will send you an email if any of these are start selling it. So it's also way to monitoring what is happening, but also to acting fast if your competitors or other in the market is start doing new stuff that you are not aware of.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of discussions around the possibilities today of kind of like, okay, let's go in and check this specific store and you get information about that store. But I think what's actually interesting is looking at from a broad market perspective and actually being able to look in, just like you said, just in Switzerland, it's over 40,000 different retailers that we on an ongoing basis capture data, see the whole market, how it's moving, both from the large players, but also from the small ones, which means that you can quite early detect trends in the growing web shops that are gaining in popularity. And this combination of also, we didn't talk that much about the growth predictions, but we talked a little bit of the size predictions to be able to see what are the up and coming type of trends that are not always visualized and that's sometimes hard to capture because it's so difficult to monitor what's going on in such a broad market, and especially now that e-commerce is completely international from that perspective, that the way people purchase, the way people research is very different.
Yeah, and also because it's difficult to actually figure out where to look when there is so much data. So how do you actually find a bit the needle here, where you have so much angles to actually attack this data on? And that is some of the things we are currently working on, is to activate this data on a higher level, more aggregated from both individual market, but it could also be from a European perspective. Could we start seeing trends around product categories, brands in Italy that is going to Denmark? Then can we capture that as a signal in the data that can also help the user of it to actually act before the market and act before the trend is coming to your country? That is what we want to do with a new analytics module that we are working on.
So naturally, the next question with this, of course, is okay. So now that we have the product portfolio, can we look in finding similar web shops that have similar product portfolios that work with similar brands and highlight that?
Yeah, because that was actually one of the things that we also wanted to achieve with this, was to figure out that maybe you have a favorite customer, maybe you have a favorite page. Can you then also start finding similar web shops? And similar web shops can both be in the market you're operating in, but it can also be like in all the markets that we are covering in Tembi. So we are looking into similar web shops by analyzing number of products, the categories, and the brands. And it's actually some of the things we are doing here in the bottom. So now we are looking at Switzerland, and we find some pharmacies, both in Switzerland, but it looks like also some in Belgium here. And the main reasons is the categories that they are strong within cosmetics, or here we have medicine and drugs over here. So what this is also illustrating is the level of details you can go with the categorization, because we were talking about personal care here earlier, but this is actually down to oral care. We are very specific here, and if we want to compare two stores to get an understanding of what is actually the difference here, we can simply press full comparison, compare the two web shops we're looking at, and then now we will look at the web shop head to head. It takes a bit of a time to analyze the data here, but then we can also review the web shops from a category and brand angle to see, okay, are they actually similar? How are they looking? Because as a first view, just in this case here, they look very similar, their product distribution. But then if we also combine it with number of product, we can see that clearly the first one here is significantly larger than the second, but they also have a growing web shop portfolio. And then we can simply go down and start comparing the two web shop on multiple ways. One is like the categories, as we looked at before, but now head to head. It could be the brand, and it could be many other elements of the data. Simply to get an understanding of, okay, so if I'm looking at my main competitor, what are they actually doing and where are they? start investing in the product mix. So that is also a way to start comparing things. And we were talking a bit about the brands earlier, but then we can both look at the brands from different angles, because it can both be number of product, but it can also be the changes, right? So where they actually start introducing new brands and where they actually start offering new services. Funny enough, we had this one before, and we can see that the webshop over here has increased it with 60%, but they are still far from the 1,100 products that we saw earlier on the first case. Just a very quick example of how we can start analyzing and understanding what is actually happening in the market here.
Yeah, it gives you also like an interesting competitive intelligence, right? Because on one aspect, you can see exactly what your main competitors or the market is doing. And you can track trends from that perspective of seeing kind of, okay, what brands are gaining in popularity, just like you mentioned. Like, and now it would be interesting, of course, let's say we want to purchase, was it Powerfuel that you were showing? And then look into, okay, which web shops are selling this brand? And then which other types of brands and products are they also selling? So you can understand that the whole mix of the picture of how does that look and what kind of it's combined together in that portfolio mix.
Yeah, and also that we are looking into a market that is going to be more and more global, right? People are buying cross-border, and your competitors from the early days where it was physical retails, the competitor was mainly the other store down the street. But now your competitor can be in Finland, it can be in Spain, and it's so difficult to get that overview when you're looking at the online market. So that's also why we have developed this similar web shop, but by looking broader than just your own market to get an understanding of what is actually happening. And at the same time, we're also looking, when we talk different markets, we also see different trends depending on markets. So if you are a Danish retailer or Spain retailer from Spain that want to go into another market, how is the dynamics here? Is it actually trending the things I'm looking at, or how are other stores behaving? That's also some of the cases that we are investigating with this type of data.
Yeah, I think on another case is also if you work in procurement and you're hesitant towards buying a certain product, get a picture of, okay, in what market is this product popular? Has this product been part of a product portfolio for a longer time? Have they increased or decreased that brand within certain players? And that also gives you a signal whether that is gaining in popularity or actually decreasing in popularity. And then you can start basically your analysis on those type of signals.
100%. And by doing the same angle as a brand opener, you can also understand on which channels are your products sold. Because it is difficult if you own a brand to figure out who are actually selling my products online, because a lot of things are happening through wholesalers and other channels today, which also make it difficult to actually know, okay, is my brand sold on other markets, and who is actually selling it, and how are they displaying my brands? Because some brand owners, of course, have very strong feelings about how their products should be distributed to end users.
Christian, thanks a lot. We are closing down on time. I think we are the last couple of seconds back. In all, to conclude, I think it's super exciting to see. It's fascinating to be able to actually get a simple visualization of something that is so complex to monitor as a human, and then be able to kind of interact with this thing. And this is only the beginning of this, which means that now we're starting collecting the data. We're building kind of more aggregated views. We're also building in more generative AI functionalities in this, so that people can actually start querying our database from a different perspective and getting a full view of the European e-commerce market. So thanks a lot, everybody, for listening in, and to the next time. Thank you, Christian.
Thank you, Michael.